Cedar Creek is home to some of the world's healthiest native remnants of burr oak savanna, which is no small thing. Worldwide, oak savanna habitat has shrunk from 50 million acres to less than 25,000 acres. Specifically in Minnesota, less than 0.01% of our original oak savanna is left. Fortunately, there's Cedar Creek. Its gently rolling topography contains an abundance of native prairie grasses and flowering plants, beloved by creatures great and small. From the tiniest of insects to the most intimidating of mammals, they all rely on one another and play a critical role in the health of this remarkable and rare ecosystem. These sweeping vistas captivate the senses. Now, let's take a closer look to see what's going on within all that beauty. Insects are critical to life in the oak savanna habitat. Buzzing, chirping, munching, and staying busy at all hours, day and night. A butterfly or moth, for instance, lay eggs on the leaves of the tall oaks and the abundant flowering plants in the understory. These hungry hatchlings are voracious eaters. Left to their own devices, caterpillar populations can decimate an oak tree or a field of milkweed. Fortunately, savanna plants and caterpillars have evolved to coexist quite nicely. Some caterpillars, which are nutrient-rich, offer excellent nutrition for birds. Other, more fortunate caterpillars will mature into moths and butterflies that provide pollination services and are beautiful to behold. In a natural balance, the stately oak, colorful wildflowers, and their neighbors host countless caterpillars and still capture plenty of sunlight for their own health. That makes the burr oaks, pin oaks, and other plants of the savanna a veritable buffet for birds during the crucial nesting period. Scientists estimate that it takes thousands of caterpillars to nurture a single nest of baby birds. So, having access to nearby ample food is an important part of choosing where to nest. That's why so many of our feathered friends, like the indigo bunting, eastern towhee, and Baltimore oriole, favor the oak savanna. No bird, however, is more closely associated with the oak savanna than the red-headed woodpecker. This jaunty fellow finds shelter and food in oak branches and makes a nesting cavity in its trunk. The woodpecker eats a wide variety of food, including insects they can pluck midair, berries, seeds, and nuts. As oak savanna habitat becomes increasingly scarce, red-headed woodpeckers struggle to find adequate food and shelter, and as a result, their numbers are declining, falling more than 60% over the past 50 years globally. In Minnesota, this decrease is even more dramatic, with population declines of about 6% a year, leading to an overall loss of nearly 95% of the state population since the 1960s. Although populations of red-headed woodpeckers have plummeted elsewhere over the last several decades, the Cedar Creek population is apparently stable. This gives us a chance to study not only their behavior, but also all aspects of the oak savanna habitat that help them thrive. Armed with this knowledge, scientists and land managers everywhere may be able to help the red-headed woodpeckers make a comeback. Scattered amongst native prairie grasses and blooming wildflowers, burr oaks are the oldest inhabitants of this kingdom, living to be over 300 years old. These wizened elders grow slowly, particularly in Cedar Creek's sandy soils, less than 12 inches per year, twisting and turning their branches into distinct sculptural forms. Burr oaks are a keystone species, meaning that without them, their ecosystem would be dramatically different or cease to exist altogether. They offer shelter for birds, dense shade, and acorns for wood ducks, wild turkeys, white-tailed deer, squirrels, and other creatures of the oak savanna. In addition to their age, burr oaks have another remarkable trait that seems to defy logic. They rely on the purifying force of fire. Oaks are exceptionally evolved to thrive in a periodically burned environment. Their ability to survive fire gives them an advantage over faster-growing tree species. Burr oaks have fire-tolerant, thick, rough bark, and drop leaves that are drier and slower to decompose than other tree species, offering excellent kindling for a spark.
Its neighbor, the northern pin oak, also resprouts vigorously after being burned. Oak savanna habitats happen naturally as a result of lightning strikes to the prairie in dry seasons, and prior to colonization, Native Americans routinely conducted controlled burns to maintain prairies and forests.
In fact, fire plays a powerful role in the health of this entire ecosystem. Without fire, other species of trees and shrubs quickly take over, filling open spaces with maple, alders, sumac, and raspberry shrubs, creating an environment that does not support the sun-loving grasses and flowers of a prairie, or the birds and animals that depend on them. The slow-growing burr oak faces stiff competition from other trees for light, space, and nutrients, and the oaks begin to disappear. The ancient relationship between fire and oak is surprisingly delicate. If a fire burns too hot, even the thick bark and deep roots of the burr oaks cannot survive. So, how do we manage the oak savanna to keep the heat of a fire from consuming it all, particularly when prairie grasses grow so tall so quickly?
200 years ago, these grasses were continuously grazed by roaming herds of bison. Recently, scientists have begun to understand the crucial role of these grazers in the overall health of the oak savanna. In the summer of 2018, Cedar Creek welcomed its first herd of grazing bison to restore balance, marking the first time in over a century this land has seen its kin. Bison eat around 25 pounds of native grasses per day, and where they graze, they shorten the grasses, leaving less fuel for fires. In areas grazed by bison, fires burn about 356 degrees Fahrenheit cooler than untouched areas, protecting the oaks from fires that could become too hot for them to survive. The oak savanna's ground layer is dominated by native perennial grasses, such as the little bluestem, big bluestem, Indian grass, and June grass. These native grasses are well adapted to survive the hot sun, seasonal droughts, and grazing bison of the savanna. As tall as they are, even more of the plant is below ground, with roots growing up to 15 feet long. This anchors the soil and allows the grasses to tap into deep groundwater. Like all plants, these grasses pull carbon dioxide from the air and store it. But unlike trees, grasslands store most of their carbon underground, in their roots and in the soil. And when carbon is stored in the soil, it doesn't release back into the atmosphere, even when the grasslands burn. This makes prairies a more efficient way to sequester carbon than forests, which release all their carbon when burned. Though they inhabit only a fraction of what was once their home, prairie grasses are still a powerful force in preventing harmful layers of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere.
In late spring and summer, flowering plants called forbs, fueled by increased sunlight and plenty of bison fertilizer, fill the well-grazed fields with color. This growth of abundant, blooming wildflowers also means more food for caterpillars and nectar for pollinators and butterflies, who in turn lay eggs to create more caterpillars. Pollinators use corridors of grasses to move safely through the landscape and for protection from predators. Grasses create the foundation of the oak savanna's ecosystem, providing food, shelter from severe weather, and nesting sites for the many birds, insects, and small mammals that call Cedar Creek their home.
Ecosystems are a vibrant web of interconnected lives, each one with its own needs and instincts, creating a healthy biome without even realizing it just by following their natural path. Every aspect of the oak savanna, from butterflies and bison to rolling prairie grasses, work in tandem to feed and shelter one another. Even the sweeping destruction of prairie fires, whether started by lightning in a dry season or careful human intervention, can act as a force to bring new life and growth to the oak savanna. But in order to truly thrive, an ecosystem must be balanced, and that ecosystem includes you. Protecting these communities and ensuring the health and future of the oak savanna is up to all of us, and every action we take, no matter how small, makes a difference in ensuring its survival.